Welcome to Elizabeth's Chronicles. If you love true crime, consider subscribing. Philip Austin was born on February 14 in 1969, in Northampton, England. Philip married Claire in 1993. The couple had two children, Kieran, age 8, and Jade, age 7. Austin worked the overnight shift as a forklift operator, and Claire worked for Northamptonshire County Council, as a part-time home help. Austin was known to have a heated temper, and had attended counseling sessions at the National Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children, to learn how to properly control his outbursts, especially with his son, Kieran. Claire also went to sessions in an attempt to help ease their relationship. In June of 2000, the family went on vacation to Fuerteventura, with one of Claire's cousins and her partner. In early July of 2000, on a rainy evening, a neighbor noticed the children in the yard of the family home. The children told the neighbor they did not want to go into the home, because their father was not in a good mood. The following day, Claire phoned her cousin upset, and told her that Austin had cancelled their trip to Virgin Cinema at Sixfields, at the last moment. Then he packed a bag, and just left. She went on to tell her cousin, that her husband was not right, and was taking it out on the family. On July 10 in 2000, Austin and Claire began to argue in their home. Austin bashed his wife over the head with a mallet, but she struggled with him, so he used her own bra to strangle her, then used two carving knives to finish killing her. Once he was sure she was dead, he used the same rubber mallet to beat the family's two poodles to death, Dandy and Sooty. Austin then left the home to pick up the two children from school. He took the children out for fish and fries on the way to the house. After returning home, he sedated both of his children, then strangled them once they were asleep in their own bedrooms. Austin left the home and spent a week on the run, staying in Blackpool and Scarborough. After the children were missed from school, on July 17, the school's secretary phoned Claire's parents, Carol and Harry Quinn, when she couldn't get anyone at the home to answer. The secretary wanted to know why the children had not been attending school all week. The worried grandparents rushed over to the house, and Mr. Quinn found Claire dead on the kitchen floor. He warned his wife not to enter, but he could not stop her. She pushed through. Once she saw the dead body of her daughter, she raced upstairs, looking for her grandbabies, only to discover the children both dead. Carol Quinn said, "It was the worst moment of my life, beyond anyone's worst nightmares." She went on to say, "I have an imprint of finding their bodies on my mind all day, every day. Sometimes I think about it, and I weep in the shower. There are times when I can't close my eyes without thinking of their tiny bodies, left there, like bags of rubbish." What he did was evil. He was discovered in Lake District, in his car acting suspiciously. He had slit his wrists, but investigators do not believe he was really trying to commit suicide. The wounds were not deep enough to cause death. He was immediately arrested. When later asked why he murdered his wife, he said, "She started hassling me, and arguing, and that. I just turned on her." When asked why he murdered his children, he said, "It sort of came to me, that I had killed her, so I went upstairs and killed my children." Police stated that Austin showed no emotion during the interviews. After the murders, investigators spoke with family and friends, and found that Austin was known to be self-centered. Claire was trying to save money, but every time she'd get some money saved up, Austin would purchase things for himself, such as expensive sneakers, very expensive golf clubs, yet he didn't even play golf. He had cut off all contact with his own family before he ever married Claire. None of his own family came to their wedding. His best man was one of Claire's friends. He was a very quiet man, and socially awkward. The cousins that went on vacation with the couple prior to the murders, said that he would have bursts of anger, ranting and raving, for no reason at all. Other family members revealed that the reason Austin had to go to counseling sessions, was due to how he was abusive toward the children. He would choke them and aggressively hit them when he couldn't control them, even when they were babies. He was also very controlling toward Claire. Even when playing, he was rough with the children. Investigators said on the day of the murders, Austin took the children to school, stopped by Auto Trader, and circled several cars, then ate at McDonald's. Austin then visited a prostitute, which was not something he had ever done before. He then went and purchased the mallet he used to murder his wife. When Austin confessed, he described how his wife fought back, and almost got out the front door, but he was able to catch up to her, and shut the door. He only got the upper hand when she slipped and fell, and he was able to knock her head against the floor, knocking her unconscious. He was then able to hit her with the mallet, strangle her, then end her life by stabbing her to death. Austin told investigators when he picked his children up, he drove around for hours trying to figure out what he's going to do next. He said he thought about dropping the children off at the grandparents' home, but decided not to do that, fearing they would immediately call the police. Austin pled not guilty, on the ground of insanity, but later changed the plea to guilty. He was sentenced to 3 concurrent life sentences. He will have to serve at least 20 years, before he can apply for parole. Claire's mother says she walks her dog to the nearby churchyard every day, and stands by their graves, and says a few words to them. She says she gets angry often at how he took them away from her. She fears that he will get released on parole. Now I have an awful dread that I will see the monster who killed my beautiful daughter, and my innocent grandchildren on my daily walk to the churchyard, and I will see him standing by the graves. That frightens me, she said. She fears that if paroled, he will be young enough to meet another woman, marry again, and repeat what happened before. Him getting released, and doing this to another family horrifies me. The way he killed my loved ones, and left them as if they were bags of rubbish, is appalling. Who would want him living next door to them? Who would want him meeting up with their mother, and having their children around him? Nobody would, but the reality is it could happen. And believe you me, it will be easier for him to kill again the second time around. Mrs. Quinn said she's frightened that her son, Matthew, age 48, who has been on antidepressants ever since his sister was murdered, may do something to him once he's released. Ms. Quinn said, I don't know how he will react if Austin gets out. By God, it broke him at the time. Austin's parole has been a sickening countdown we have endured for years. Philip Austin was not released from prison when his 20 years was served. However, he was moved to an open prison. An open prison is where prisoners are trusted to complete their sentences with little supervision. The inmates are typically not locked in their cells, and may be allowed to have employment outside the prison walls. However, if the prisoner shows any signs that their rehabilitation is not working, they can be sent back to maximum security prison, to serve out the remainder of their sentence. William Maxwell was a 47-year-old real estate developer and builder. He built residential subdivisions in Harnett and Cumberland counties. He was known to be a loving husband and father. He was married to 43-year-old Catherine, and the couple had 2 children, Connor, 17 years old, and Cameron, 15 years old. Cameron was in the 9th grade, at Village Christian Academy in Fayetteville, and played varsity basketball, while his sister Connor was a senior. William was a deacon at Snyder Memorial Baptist Church, where his family attended. The children were in the youth ministry and sang in the choir. Catherine was a stay-at-home mom, who also taught Sunday school at Snyder Memorial. Neighbors and friends describe the family as very friendly. They were known to keep their yard picture perfect, and could be seen walking their small dog around the neighborhood often. On November 2, in 2009, at 6:38 p.m. a 911 call came into Fayetteville Police Dispatch Center. Someone was in clear distress, and sounds of gunshots can be heard in the background. However, the call center receives more than 46,000 abounded calls a year. Their policy is to attempt to redial the incoming number. If the call is from a landline, they can pinpoint the location. If from a cell phone without a global positioning system, the best they can try is the nearest cell tower. Police could not trace the call. At around 8:30 p.m. some family members dropped by to visit. When nobody answered the door, they peeked through the front window and noticed bodies. They immediately called 911. In the call, a man says he's arrived at his daughter's home, and says it appears to be a murder-suicide. In the background, a woman can be heard knocking and saying, "I knew it. I knew it." The caller tells the operator that him and his wife have been trying to contact their daughter, and couldn't reach her. When authorities arrived, they looked through the window, and the first thing they saw was Catherine Maxwell's body. Once they made entry, they found William Maxwell Jr. and his son. Further inside the home, they found Connor. The bodies were removed from the home around 4:30 p.m. that day. Investigators discovered that Maxwell had applied for a concealed weapon permit in December of 2007, and it was approved in January of 2008. His permit was still active. "They were just wonderful people, active in their church," said neighbor Kay Edwards. "We're just all in shock. You could not imagine this happening." Maxwell's business associate, George Rose, along with friends, all said there was nothing to suggest of him ever being violent. "That guy loved his family. He wouldn't have done anything, if he was thinking right, to hurt his family," Rose said. Funeral services were held at Snyder Memorial Baptist Church in Fayetteville. Authorities were unable to determine a clear motive into the murder-suicide. Philip Austin was a self-centered psychopath, who took way more than he ever gave. He viciously murdered his wife, and two beautiful children, due to his selfish, narcissistic ways. It's a disgrace that a monster like Philip Austin has already been moved to an open prison. He should never be released. William Maxwell murdered his entire family one evening. Nobody knows why someone who was always known to be a good, loving family man would just decide to wipe out his entire family. One thing is evident: a loving husband and father wouldn't kill his own children, unless he was mentally ill. That concludes this episode. Keep your eye out for the next episode, coming soon. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing. Thanks for watching.